Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dropping the Gloves. Tim just warned me if I touch the cookies on my desk while we're doing the episode, he's going to get upset. So we got to do this quick. I have a nice bag of cookies and a full coffee, Tim, that I'm just really excited to eat. So let's get into the episode. But first, anything you want to get off your chest, Tim? Love life that people want to know?
Nothing. Nothing. No updates, no confessions, nothing to get off my chest.
Still in a committed relationship, though?
Yep. Yeah, it's going well. Yep.
Yeah.
We're starting to plan holiday stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, because we had the same birthday. I don't know if I've said that. We had the same birthday.
What?
Isn't that wild? Yeah. We found out on the first date. I think she asked me, and I said, yeah, October 17th, and she thought I was messing with her, like I had seen her ID or something, and no, same. Sure enough, I'm 1 year older to the day.
That could create issues if you did get married, as far as competitive nature, who's getting who a better present. It could create resentment and almost a little much pressure coming up to that date. Like, what are you going to spend on my present? What are you going to get me? What is she going to get me? What am I going to get her? It's got to be big. Don't you think?
Equal, right? Yeah, I don't know. We haven't thought about that, but yeah, that and then Thanksgiving and then Christmas all right in a row. So, and then we're going to Key West in October. Not that anyone cares about this, but yeah, this is that's the big topic right now.
So, are you going to her house for those holidays?
TBD. I'm definitely going home for Christmas.
Did you just say TBD?
Yeah.
Oh, she's going to break up with you.
Okay.
I would break up with you if you said to me in an actual conversation, TBD. LOL.
You need to get off your little farmstead more often, John. People speak like that. Speaking of, TBD. What's going on today?
Nothing. It's a feast day in the Catholic Church of the Assumption. But what else is going on today? I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. No, you said you were doing some work around the house, and people asked me for the updates. So
I've been humping the last 3 days, putting down this foam board for the install of the in-floor tubing for my radiant heat, which I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. That's my 9 to 5. And I have been in love with this heating system for the last 4 or 5 years. This is what I want in my house, and this is what I'm getting. I have a wood boiler that's connected to radiant heat, which is tubing under your floor. So you have to lay down insulation so the heat just doesn't get lost into the earth. Bought this really nice Crete heat insulation. So it lays down really, really simple, but they're only 2x4 foot sheets. And they come in these big foam boards. And when you have, plus my garage in the house, it's around 4,000 square feet. The garage is huge. So my house isn't that big. The garage is big. Laying those sheets, Tim, there's 400 plus sheets I have to lay, 417 to be exact. Each one, you got to just clip it in, put it down. If there's a pipe there, you got to cut a hole out. It just takes a long time. And the sun doesn't get any cooler this time of year. It's just super hot. So I've been doing that the last 3 days. But tomorrow and the next day, I get to lay down the tubing. That's the fun part where you just go and loop it all around. You connect it in. We get inspected. Then the concrete gets poured next week. So this is the exciting part, where all the pipes and everything is all done. Concrete goes down, then the walls go up. Then that happens fast. But yeah, it's I sent you a picture. I'll post a picture maybe of just the green stuff, because doesn't it look pretty, Tim?
It does. And this is a bigger plot of land. I mean, I knew you have big property, but I didn't realize, like, you're going to have a yard. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you're going to have some space to play. I pictured you more in the woods than that.
It was more a case of the excavators did that for us, where they needed work to, move around their big machines, and they had to move dirt around. So it was a consequence of them, because I didn't think I was going to have that either. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, we got a yard, because I love to play in the yard. Sometimes I just wake up and go run around. I just need to burn off some steam. My wife's like, just go outside and run around. And so I just go and just run. You see, running up and down the yard. Just burn off some steam. I love playing. You don't love to play. You're too mature, don't you?
Yeah, I'm just working. I get up and I work 12, 13 hours a day and I go to bed. That's it. I don't have time to play. I wish I did. You have it so easy. You don't even know. You don't do anything.
I don't do a thing. But it is nice. No, the house is on its way. But more importantly, this episode, everybody, Brought to you by Bet365. Proud partner of Dropping the Gloves. You should open an account today with Bet365 so you can bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it is never ordinary at Bet365. Use code HOCKEYCA. That's Bet365, code HOCKEYCA. Football's around the corner. I got my fantasy football draft coming up in about 2 weeks. Very excited. Mine's hard to plan for. It's still with my Buffalo Sabres guys, so a couple of players are in, a couple of the trainers, and then some guys I've never met before. And the hard part about this is they don't give you the draft order until 1 hour before the draft. So there's no way to strategize. There's no way to say, okay, I'm the sixth pick. This is how I want this draft to go. You got to log in an hour before you. Oh, I got the first pick. Fantastic. I don't know if I like that, but it makes it interesting.
Feels like I haven't done fantasy football in like 5 or 6 years. I used to do it every year, and I was just giving my money away. I wasn't having fun with it. But do you running backs is the main position that you strategize around, right? It seems to be with drafts. You either go high or you wait, or the no running back strategy I read about every year. What's your approach to that?
Well, the value of the running back has been decreasing year on year in the actual game, which makes the value of a good running back increase in fantasy. So if you can get a good, like what do they call the guy who carries the ball all the time? I don't know. If you can get a running back who's a 3-down back, you draft. Like a Christian McCaffrey,
yeah,
he's a cheat code. It's not fair whoever gets him, because he's going to lock in for 30 to 40 points every week. The guy, and we do a PPR, and he catches passes, he gets touchdowns. Like he's so good. But then after that, it falls right off. So like, what are you going to do? Do you go out and get a running back, second pick overall, when you could get a wide receiver who's going to crush it? So it's an interesting strategy where you go 2 high-end wide receivers with the first 2 picks. You go 2 lower-end running backs who could maybe share the ball. I don't know. I love fantasy football. I like it more than fantasy hockey. It's fun. Once a week, that's doable. Hockey every day. Man, you got to look at it every day. It's a lot. It's too much for me. But again, I got stuff going on. If I was younger, maybe I could do hockey, but I can't do it. But anyways, Tim, we had a couple of interviews last week. I don't want to talk about Ty Anderson. Who cares? Boston Bruins, that was fun. Nick Foligno, I tell you what, that was one of my favorite interviews that I think we've ever done. Isn't that guy gem? But don't you just want to be his friend?
He's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I knew that he was
so cool.
Yeah, I knew he was well spoken. I knew he was well liked and all that. He's just so, I don't know, cool is a great word for it. He's just like so funny and real and authentic and open and honest. And like, he didn't dodge questions. We didn't really ask him any hard ones, but everything we asked, he was honest about. Yeah, I thought it was awesome. We got great feedback online about it. And yeah, I've already listened to it a couple times now. That was great.
You did? Wow. Yeah, no, he's a neat guy. Marcus, his brother's great too. So that whole family is top notch. He was a lot of good feedback. A lot of really good feedback for Nick Foligno. I think the Hawks are going to have a bounce back here. We talk about teams regressing. The Hawks could potentially, and I don't want to just maybe get too all in on this team. Could they compete for a playoff spot? Maybe if everyone's healthy, when you look at their top 2 lines, you bring in Bertuzzi, you got a healthy Taylor Hall, you got a Connor Bedard, you got some good pieces on the back end who are growing, developing. Seth Jones, if he stays okay. You bring in the young kid. Who would they pick second overall? What's his name? The Michigan State defenseman. You get him in the mix, all of a sudden, you're putting together a pretty solid team that can maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little too overconfident for the Hawks, but I don't mind. Dude, they bring in Teuvo Teravainen? That's fun.
Yeah, some defense, Alec Martinez, plus like you get the guys last year, you're basically getting 2 years worth of free agents back because of Taylor Hall and Tyler Johnson and all these other guys that were hurt basically the entire year. Is Donato on that team?
Coming back? What's up?
Ryan Donato, is he in that team too?
Yeah, he'll be there. I don't think Taylor Johnson's there. They traded him at the deadline, but no, they got Ryan Donato. You bring in Makiev from Vancouver, change of scenery for him maybe. So they signed Craig Smith, former Bruins player. I don't know. It would not surprise me if they're in the hunt when it comes down to it. Coming, bubble time, baby. We'll see. But let's move on. Nick Foligno, thanks for coming on the show. There was some drama. in the NHL, and it involved the Edmonton Oilers. And everybody knows Oilers drama. You immediately go, Evander Kane. Dirtball Evander Kane. Piece of trash Evander Kane. But it doesn't involve him. So shockingly, he is going on the LTIR. He does play a part in this. He does play actually a pretty substantial part in this, but it wasn't the Oilers creating the drama. It was the St. Louis Blues. Those sneaky little St. Louis Blues have been waiting in the wings for weeks, for months, Tim, just waiting for their chance to pounce. They saw the Edmonton Oilers, conference rivals. They saw their salary cap situation. They saw some players that we'd like to have in St. Louis after that playoff run for the Edmonton Oilers. Everyone got a good look at some of their young prospects, specifically Philip Broberg, very good defenseman. Very, very good defenseman, had a great playoffs. And then a speedster, Dylan Holloway, who really grew into his game. High-end draft pick. I think he was a first-rounder. Kind of came onto the scene in this playoffs. Really put a stamp on it. His forechecking was incredible. His just engine was there. He was really, really solid. St. Louis Blues saw these two guys, and they said, Doug Armstrong. Let's look at the Edmonton Oilers salary cap situation. Ooh. Up against the cap. Ooh. 3-star players in line for a new deal in the next 2 years. Ooh. You're going to have to spend around $40 to $50 million in the next 2 years on 97-29 and Evan Bouchard. Ooh. Time to take advantage of this situation. So that sneaky little rat, Doug Armstrong, I shouldn't call him a rat. I said that sneaky little weasel. Doug Armstrong reached out to Broberg and Holloway's agents, and he said, listen, I want to play ball. He offered them both 2-year deals. Philip Broberg, $4.58917 million per, and Dylan Holloway, $2.290457 per. And those numbers, you have to be precise, down to the very last dollar, because they do mean something, and we'll get to that in a second. And Philip Broberg, Dylan Holloway, Tim, they said, hell yeah. Broberg was in line. He was looking at what? What did we say before the show? He made 1.8.
Yeah, that was his number. Yeah, the report. And it seemed like it came out of nowhere, but if you look at this now, it really didn't. This was coming.
Oh, yeah. You want me to elaborate on how far in advance the St. Louis Blues made this happen? Because the St. Louis Blues, in order for the offer sheet to work, you have to give up compensation. If the players accept and the team doesn't match, you owe the other team compensation. Well, the St. Louis Blues needed their second and third round draft picks in order to make this work. Well, the St. Louis Blues traded their second round draft pick a while ago. So they needed to have their second round draft pick. What did these sneaky little devils do? They made a trade in June with the Pittsburgh Penguins to reacquire that second round draft pick. A throwaway trade in June. No one even's thinking about it. June 29th. Who cares? This is how long Doug Armstrong has been thinking about this offer sheet, Tim. Since June 29th, he made this trade to reacquire that specific second round pick. Not another second rounder, not a first, not a third. That specific second round pick for next year, he needed back. So he went and got it from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now he has a second round pick. Now he has his third round pick. He has the tools he needs to offer Holloway and Broberg these contracts. And if they accept, which they did, and what I said, it comes down to the dollar. If Broberg would have wanted $1 more, instead of offering $4,580,917, if Philip Broberg would have said, I want $4,580,918, it would have gone from a second round pick compensation to a first round pick compensation. That's a big suck it, Edmonton, if I've ever seen one. It's so smart, but just down to the very dollar. And the same goes from the Dylan Holloway. If he would have wanted $1 more, it goes from a third round pick compensation to a second round pick compensation. Isn't that amazing? Just petty to go to the very dollar to work the cap and the CBA so beautifully that it just must sting if you're Stan Bowman. You wake up in the morning, I got a new job in Edmonton. What the heck? Now I got to deal with this. And this throws a wrench into their situation. And we'll go back because Ken Holland does play a part in this too, where he could have signed these guys last year, but he said he didn't want to. And the ownership was pleading with him, please sign these guys. And he's like, let's pump the brakes. Let's squeeze him a little bit. We'll get a good deal. But what do you think, Tim, about this? You're an honorable guy. Would you be able to pull this move if you're a GM of the St. Louis Blues?
I would, and this is so layered. There are so many moving pieces to this because let's look at the two players. They're two useful players that were negotiating for way less than this, like you said. Both were in the ones, what they wanted, like 2 years, 1.8, 1.2, whatever for Broberg and Holloway. They're getting more than double that in Broberg's case. So this is an obvious, like, of course I'm going to take that. It has nothing to do with spite or bad feelings or why hasn't this been done yet with the Oilers, because Jason Gregor pointed out a great example with Jarmelson back in 2010. I mentioned this to you the other day. The Sharks made an offer for him. He signed it. The Hawks ended up matching, and he stayed around and won 2 more cups there. So like it's totally normal for this, and this is just business. It doesn't ruin any relationships, except maybe between the two GMs, which I think is really interesting. But the fact that you can trace back their trades from 6-7 weeks ago to now, which brings up the question is like, in order to make that offer, they need to have their second round pick, like you said. Why did the offer come through now? Why not on July 1st or July 15th or July 30th? It came through on August 13th, 2 days ago. Is there any significance to that? Or is it just like, how are these guys still not signed? I'm just going to go for it type thing.
Yeah, I don't know if the date has any significance, but it just puts mud on the Oilers' faces. And I don't blame Stan Bowman. He just inherited this job not too long ago. Ken Holland is the guy who should have done this. And again, before the playoffs, Dylan Holloway, you could have labeled him as a failure. Hasn't lived up to his expectation. Kind of where do we put him? Big moose of a player, moves around the ice pretty good, but hadn't really put a stamp on his game. Who is this guy going to be? He comes in and has a fantastic playoffs. Next thing you know, this guy is part of the future. We need to sign him. Well, everybody else saw this, and then obviously we know what Broberg did. He was fantastic in the playoffs. Bouchard was getting hounded. He was playing so much ice. Darnell Nurse was... We know who Darnell Nurse is. Philip Broberg played fantastic. He was so dynamic, so good. Everybody saw that. The Edmonton Oilers wanted to keep him, so his price tag went through the roof. But we alluded to Ken Holland earlier. The ownership wanted to re-sign these guys last year. They wanted to get them long-term deals. I don't know what the term was, but they wanted to get these deals done, and Ken Holland said no. So that short-sightedness, or maybe he was bullish on them having a bad playoffs. I don't understand the reasoning there. If you know you want to be with these guys long-term, lock them up, man. Like get the deals done because their value only goes up. There's never a case that I've seen where young players who are getting better take less money. It doesn't work out. I look at the Dallas Cowboys now, what they've done in their cap situation. CeeDee Lamb and their quarterback, if they would have wrapped them up 2 years ago, they would have saved tens of millions of dollars. Fast forward to now, the quarterback market has gone crazy, and wide receivers are making tons and tons of money with all the deals they've just given out to Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill and all these guys. CeeDee Lamb's going to want to get paid like those guys, where if you would have done it a year ago, you would have saved tens of millions of dollars when it comes to football. That's the truth. But anyways, they could have done the same thing here at Edmonton. Now you're in this situation. You're Stan Bowman, Tim. You have to deal with this. This has been put in your lap. If you sign both of these guys today, that puts you $7.225 million over the salary cap if they match the deals. There's always the Evander Kane buyout. He only makes 5.125. Not buyout, sorry, LTIR. So it doesn't free up enough money to sign these two guys. What do you do? I know the salary cap's going up next year and the next year and the next year. It'll incrementally get larger, but not enough to make all of this work when you factor in Leon's going to want at least $13 million. So you're adding $5 million to the salary cap next year. What do? Do you just let these two guys walk, Tim?
Well, that's the question, because not only is it 7 and change over, even with the Evander thing, it's still over the salary cap. And that's before you factor in the pay increase that Draisaitl's going to get, that Bouchard's going to get, and of course next year McDavid's going to get. Like, it's going to be even trickier. And they also have $3 million in dead cap from buying out James Neal and Campbell. So it's like there's not a whole lot of room to play with. And I was talking to someone earlier, like, I don't envy the GM right now, because it's like you inherited this mess. You have a really short window to make a decision. They have 7 days dated back to the 13th. So they have until August 9th and 20th. They're tight against the cap. they have a lot of pressure because they went to the Cup Finals last year. I think probably Vander's going to go in the LTIR like in the next week or two, just because you're looking at him requiring surgery. He's going to miss multiple months. He's probably maybe, I've seen like the holidays, November, December at the earliest for him, which is probably a good thing. I think they were better off without him anyway. He wasn't that great in the playoffs. He was playing hurt. If he's not right, take him out of the lineup, free up the cap space, but you're still going to have decisions after that. Even if you match both of these, you still have to make a couple of moves just to be cap compliant to start the season. So I don't think they're going to accept this. I think they're going to let these guys walk, at least Broberg, because he's going to get more than double what he's was negotiating for just weeks ago, which is strange that they would go up that high. And I think this is where it gets into more of like less about the player and more about putting the Oilers in a difficult spot and probably even a shot across the bow from one GM to another. The fact that he offered him 4.5 when he was negotiating for less than half of that before.
Oh boy, yeah. That's a tough pill to swallow. Knowing that 2 weeks ago you could have had him for $2 million and the player would have been super happy, probably for like 3-4 years. Now you have to pay him 4.5 just to keep this guy around. But just based on their roster, Tim, I think the most important player is Philip Broberg. When you look at the Oilers, they're fairly deep up front. Dylan Holloway would be a nice tertiary piece. He's a third line guy who can bounce up and down the lineup, but he's not the focal point. You still got the Nuge and Hyman, and you got 97 and 29. You bring in Jeff Skinner. He's going to play well. You bring in Victor Arvidsson. You got some good players up front. Janmark can go, play the third line if need be. I think Broberg, is the one you really want to keep, but man, oh man. 4.58 for 2 years, and you only get him for 2 years. That's the sticking part. And after 2 years, you have to do this again. He's still an RFA. So you still have a little bit of control, but he's going to want to raise. So it's a very, very tricky situation the Oilers are in. I think if I was Stan Bowman, I find a way to keep Philip Broberg. I put Kane on LTIR. Broberg fills that cap space, and then you try to figure out once Kane comes off the LTIR what to do. You make a move in the meantime, and at the start of the season you move some players. But he has a tough task. Like, it doesn't even, we fail to mention Stuart Skinner in 2 years is going to want a new deal. He only makes 2.6. So in the next 2 or 3 years, this Edmonton Oilers team will have to do salary cap just gymnastics to make it work. It's the price you pay for having the two best players on the planet, arguably. Maybe two of the top 5. That's the going rate now. And Evan Bouchard just came out of nowhere to be a superstar Paul Coffey type player. So then Darnell Nurse. Oh my gosh. You're going to have 4 players at $10 million or more. Darnell Nurse is close, but Bouchard's going to want more than Darnell Nurse. Right? So he'll be making 10.
He deserves it too.
McDavid and Draisaitl will be making 15. Oh my word.
Well, and Freeman already mentioned too, we haven't even talked about Cody Ceci, who now they could be like cornered into trading him just because of he said, quote, if the Oilers wanted to trade Cody Ceci, they could. They had options, but I don't know yet that's what they really want to do. However, now that St. Louis has done this, they may be boxed into it and forced into it. Cody makes 3.25 one more year. That would give him the cap relief. That's a very, very important player, especially for a team that's so, front heavy with the offense. They need a player like him on the back end. You don't think so?
Is that a joke?
I'm not saying he's that great, but when you look at their lineup, he's very important because of who he is, and they don't have anyone else like him except for, I guess Nurse, the size and the minutes that he logs. But if he's gone, that's a major hole in your roster, I think. Not that he's that special, but there's another option there.
Yeah, you get rid of Ceci for sure. Yeah, 100%. But I do feel like you could find a veteran guy to fill that 5'6" role who's a physical guy, like a Bogosian or somebody like that, or a Shan or one of these Johnsons who always seem to never age and just stay. They stay 35 their whole career. They came in at 35 and they leave at 35. They never changed their play. Plug one of those guys in. They make $1 million a year. Let them kill penalties. Let them play 16 minutes. That's perfect. Cody Ceci, 3.25 is too much for him. You're a big Ceci guy. I don't know why. You just are.
I'm not. I'm not. But go ahead.
This is an interesting turn of events. I'm excited to see how this turns out. 7 days.
Does Does this make you look at the Skinner and Arvidsson moves at all differently? Like they should have prioritized their in-house guys over these signings, or do you feel like it was? I think Arvidsson was a trade, but or do you feel like those guys are more important than Broberg and Holloway anyway?
Well, the Broberg I think was should have been prioritized maybe more than Holloway, but no, like Jeff Skinner was a bonus. He came available, and he wanted to play in Edmonton, so he'll fit in nicely. $3 million is nothing for him, and Arvidsson just a good player. I think that was a need. He's better than Holloway at this point, but Holloway's 22. His ceiling is higher. So like Skinner and Arvidsson are both in their 30s, so they're on the back nine of their career. Holloway could be very good. And that's the one thing the Oilers lack is just good young forwards.
Right.
You look at their roster, you look at all the good players. Even McDavid's 27, Draisaitl's 28. Other than those two guys, they're all in their 30s. Every single forward is in their 30s except for Dylan Holloway. So what happens with this team? You have nothing in the system. They've traded everything away for every playoff run they've had. Rightfully so, you have to. But I guess you go all in with these two guys. But boy, when they leave, this team is going to stink. And there's nothing to look forward to in the future for the Edmonton Oilers. Absolutely nothing. They're all in.
It's so weird to think about Edmonton being an old team, but you're so right. McDavid 27, Draisaitl 28, like you said, Hyman 32, Evander 33, Nudes 31, Arvidsson 31, Henrik 34, Skinner 32, Janmark is 31, Perry's 55, Connor Brown's 30, Derek, you know what I mean? Like, and then the defense is a little bit younger, but they're an old team. And I wouldn't have thought of that until you pointed it out. Yeah, they a lot of the articles I read in relation to these buyout offers is the fact these matching offers is the fact that they don't have like another up and coming class of young talent. There's a huge gap here. They're a win now team. Their window is it's very much open, obviously, but it's not like there's not a lot coming down the pipe for them. So this is tough. I wouldn't want to be Stan Bowman right now.
So when we talk about the NHL, we talk about the old boys club. Just trying to take care of each other. Is St. Louis going against that? Because there was an unspoken rule almost to where, okay, let's not take advantage of each other when we're in kind of a tough situation. Everybody play nice in the sandbox because we don't know at some point you might need to give me a job or we might need to help each other out. So there's always been this unspoken kind of agreement between these guys. Don't take advantage. Did the St. Louis Blues break that?
No, I think they didn't because there's been plenty of examples of this, and it seems like it usually doesn't happen to it's not going to happen to Swayman or Jarvis or Snyder and like those tier 1 players, tier 2, tier 1. But there's other guys, and the Kotkaniemi is the best example, right? Like from Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina.
So I feel like it's not that unusual. It doesn't happen very often because of the mutual respect, but I wonder does this have a longer impact on relationships just between two men? You know what I mean? Like, hey man, that felt personal, or is it just business? I don't know. We might not know, but I'm very curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, when Kevin Lowe offer-sheeted Dustin Penner and Brian Burke said, I'm going to fight you. We're going to fist fight. So the GMs don't like it. Every time this happens, the GMs get very upset. I remember Thomas Vanek signed an offer sheet from Edmonton. Sabres were pissed. What are you doing? And so they had to match it, and obviously it worked out for Buffalo. There's been lots of offer sheets around the ways. Brian O'Reilly got offer sheeted when he was at Colorado. It happens, I guess, more often than not. But yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's interesting. I think more GMs should use this tactic, especially if you have salary cap. You put tremendous amounts of pressure on other GMs. But it also puts more money in the system, and that's what GMs don't want. They want to keep the salaries low so the players are affordable, and they don't just keep setting the market. And if you keep setting the market, a Broberg, a guy who should be making 2.5, now he makes almost 4, makes almost 5, sets the market. So now he's going to want more his next contract. He's not as good enough to make that money. I just saw an interesting tweet that Auston Matthews, the highest paid player in the NHL, he makes 13.7 or something. With inflation, it's the same salary with inflation that Yager got in 99, 2000. So the players' salaries really haven't gone up when you tie in inflation and everything else that goes along with it. Just interesting. Players should be paid more.
The The last thing I'll say about the situation before we move on is just the fact of just isolating the fact that the Blues seem to value Broberg way more than Edmonton does. Makes me think if it's going to turn into one of those situations where in a year or two, Broberg's going to be like a legit number one star defenseman, similar to a Gustav Forsling or Seth Jarvis or Teravainen, where one organization values him, sees something that the other one doesn't. And then you look back in 2 years, you're like, the Blackhawks had that guy? How did they let him go? You know, and I wonder if that's going to happen here with Broberg, which I think would be pretty fun.
And boy, oh boy, do the St. Louis Blues need to get younger on the back end. They have Ryan Suter, Nick Leddy, Colton Parenkel, Justin Falk, Torrey Krug. They need some youth. They signed Ryan Suter.
That's a heck of a team in 2014. I'll tell you that.
All-star team in 2014. All right, moving on. Let's get to some quick hits, Tim, and get out of here. What are we talking about today?
There was a random trade this week. The Penguins acquired Cody Glass and 2 draft picks, a 2025 third rounder and 2026 sixth rounder from the Preds in exchange for a minor leaguer. This is the salary dump by Nashville. They needed to free up some cap space. And Cody Glass is one of those guys, just super highly touted coming to the league, super talented, not too big, but fast, wicked shot. Never quite figured it out, never quite stayed healthy. One of those sort of unfinished projects that GMs are just hoping works out, and we'll see if he gets a shot in that top 6 on a power play, and just something to keep an eye on. I wouldn't expect too much, but you never know. Maybe he finally puts it all together.
Yeah, the Penguins have added some interesting pieces this offseason. You bring in Kevin Hayes, Anthony Beauvillier, a lot of kind of what-if players. You know, if they're in the right situation, maybe they could have been better. Beauvillier obviously started off with the Islanders. He's going to be great. Then just kind of fell off. Mentioned Cody Glass. And then Kevin Hayes signs that big deal and doesn't really live up to it. Who knows? If one of them hits, it could be nice. Pair him alongside Malkin. I think that would be a nice thing for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
There was some rumors and just chatter. It wasn't anything official, but more like Twitter, Reddit rumors of Nail Yakupov working on a return to the NHL just because he had been working out with NHL players, Russian ones, obviously, more than other off seasons. But that is not going to happen. He signed a 1-year deal with Kunlun Red Star. I don't know anything about it other than it's a KHL team and obviously friend of the show. So he's going to stick around in Russia for at least 1 more year. And who knows if we keep playing hockey for very long after that.
The Kunlun Dragons. That is the team that plays out of Beijing that offered me a contract. They offered me a 3-year deal when I retired from the NHL.
Yakupov, first overall pick's only getting a 1-year deal. How about that?
They offered me. It was their first year in the KHL, and so they had to have a bunch of Chinese players because that was the rule. They had to have national players on the team. And they were trying to fill out the roster with North American players. But the pitch was, I don't know if I've told you this. I think I have.
Many times.
They would have made me a Chinese national. I would have gotten my Chinese birth certificate. So
the CIA would have gotten involved at some point. You'd be getting some phone calls. You'd be getting some questions from FBI, NSA, CIA. Oh, yeah. What are you doing in China, John? What's with this paperwork? What's this about?
I'm just making my yen, baby.
You know how it is. Read books? Auston Matthews, we touched on this with Ty the other day, obviously, is now the official captain of the Maple Leafs. And it made a good point. It sort of felt like that already. It seemed like it was his team, regardless of who was wearing the C. But I thought it was interesting that now 4 out of the 7 Canadian teams have an American-born captain. You got Matthews, obviously, Quinn Hughes, Vancouver, Lowry in Winnipeg, and Brady Tkachuk in Ottawa. Kind of neat.
That is neat. And you got McDavid in Edmonton. And who's the other team? Montreal has
Suzuki, and then Backlund in Calgary.
There are 7 Canadian teams. Backlund's a Swede, so only 2 Canadian captains out of all the Canadian teams. Did you see? Listen, I could get into this Auston Matthews thing, so it's going to be. I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
I do.
I think so.
I don't think. I don't think it's a bad move by Trevelyan. I do think that he's setting himself up for failure. I feel like the Leafs are going to regress from last year. They had a really good year last year, like they have the last 5-6 years. They're due for a tank job in the regular season or for some kind of hiccup. Is that going to be Auston Matthews' fault?
No, he might shoulder some blame, but that makes me think. So they're going to be a playoff team, obviously. If they regress and they're a bubble team, they're a first wild card spot, and you know I don't know if they're playing in the first round, but if they were not in the top three in their division, does that make you more likely or less likely to believe that they can go on a run? I kind of wonder if they have a mediocre by their standards regular season, it almost sets them up better to there's less pressure. You know what I mean? Like if you can get by the first round, that would be tough, the first matchup, but it'd be interesting to watch.
Listen, it's the same song and dance with these guys. They have a good offseason. They try to shore up the back end. They bring in OEL, Stanley Cup champion. You bring in Chris Tanev. It's the goaltending, right? It's the goaltending. Are we really confident with Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolar as the backup for the Florida Panthers last year? Like, is this what we're doing?
I really liked what I saw from Woll last year in the Bruins matchup. He was really good.
Yeah.
No, but again, small sample size. Maybe he's Swayman, where all you see is the small sample size, and then he just keeps getting better and keeps taking up the reins. Well, speaking of, Friedman said yesterday that, quote, the last I heard, they weren't close, Swayman and the Bruins. I think it's been a challenging negotiation. They've still got time. We'll see how it sorts out. Again, we talked about this with Ty the other day. He's not panicking yet. I'm not panicking yet, but the fact that they're not close does make me nervous. I don't like to hear that.
Again, a situation of we could have had this deal done maybe last year, but we didn't want to pay. We had Allmark, and now look at where we're at. Swayman, when he was on the show, he was pissed. He was not happy. And I don't want to sound like they hurt his feelings, and that's all it was. Like they did hurt his feelings, and goalies are a different breed. They're sensitive cats. So yeah, he's not feeling the love. Show me the love. It's in that movie. Jerry Maguire.
Show me the money.
But
yeah,
he wants to feel the love, though. He wants to feel the love. I'm telling you, Ty's like, it's going to be an $8 million. This is 9+. This is what it's feeling like to me. He wants more than Bobrovsky. He wants more than Vasilevsky. He wants more than Sorokin. He wants more than those guys. So to me, it feels like a 9.5. That's what he's shooting for. Maybe more. This is terrible news for the Boston Bruins.
As far as I'm concerned, he's worth being paid as a top 5 goalie in the league. Cap situation aside, he's proven everything that I need to see to say, okay, this is our guy for the next decade. But you can't put the cap situation aside. We can't afford $10 million. We can't afford $9 million, really. Anything under 9 is going to be a steal, but it's not going to be. Yeah. If it was an 8 number, the Bruins would have done it already. Don't you think?
No, because GMs are idiots. Don Sweeney, now his pride's involved, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to budge, whatever. Do you see this wrapping up before camp? Because camp's around the corner. It's August 15th. Like, guys are going to start reporting to their cities in a month.
Guys are already there. In Nashville, Stamkos and O'Reilly are already skating together with a few other guys.
That's different. Those guys can afford to go there. Everybody needs to report. Like, it'll be end of September when guys have to go. Middle of September, camp starts. What do you think? Does he get the ink dry by that time? Do the Bruins have Jeremy Swayman come game 1?
I'm going to say yes. Just the optimist in me, but I am nervous. I will say that. I'm nervous.
I would be too.
What do you think?
They dropped the ball. I think yes, but I think it's a 9.5. I think he's going to make him pay. They really messed up last year.
Yeah.
TBD, Tim. TBD.
The last thing here, I'm sure you saw this headline. Ryan Getzlaf, who retired last year, is joining the Department of Player Safety. I haven't even seen a title. He's going to be assistant regional manager to the Department of Player Safety or whatever. But
George Peros's jock sniffer. Do nothing.
Former teammates.
Scratch his back.
Like, hey, Ryan, listen up. We're going to watch a replay and then decide what's going to happen. You can do it from your couch. I'll send you a link to your phone. You just tell me what you think.
Yeah.
And
he's leaving the beach in California? The guy lives in Malibu. He's not going, or Venice Beach or everywhere. He's not going anywhere. You're like, hey, this is how it went. Hey, Ryan, do you want to make $250,000 next year and do nothing? Ryan's like, I don't care. Sure, whatever. Okay, sounds good. You got the job. Thank you. It's like such a joke. What? And I don't want to throw stones. It's such a. I'm not going to because I want the job. So.
Yeah, you do. Me too.
Yeah, I would be a great Department of Player Safety head. Imagine the videos I would do.
Oh, the videos.
I would rip guys apart.
Huh? Shanahan's were so good.
They were so good, and I would just I would make fun of guys I would suspend guys for diving. I would. I'm like, you're doing a dive? 3 games. Not in my house. See you later. And I would up the max fine from now it's 5,000. I would make it like 50,000. Make it hurt.
So, how Pronger had that little chat with you in the preseason one year, saying, "I've got my eye on you." Who would be on your list this summer? Who would you be looking out for before the season started?
Liam O'Brien.
Sure.
I would have a chat with him, and I would beat his doors off.
Okay.
Before the season starts. No, I wouldn't do that to anybody. I think that is targeting. I don't think that was. He took me and Steve Downey in the back room. I still to this day cannot believe that happened. He's like, I got my eye on you this season. Prongs, get the hell out of here. What? I still to this day can't believe that happened. It shouldn't be that way. You should go into the season in a clean slate.
Was that the summer after the Kessel incident? Or was that like years later?
A couple years after, yeah.
That is weird.
Which is strange. I don't know how that's a strike on me when Phil Kessel attacks me.
How are your shins, by the way? You still hurting?
Yeah, they hurt my feelings. Not good. All right. Anything else, Tim?
No. Have a great weekend. Good luck with the piping and the stuff with the house.
I will let you know how it goes, and good luck with all of your planning.
Thanks.
I'm excited for you. This is a big step. Big step. All right, everybody. Have a good weekend. Enjoy it. Summer's almost over. Get out there. We'll talk to you guys next week. We got some interviews next week. It's going to be exciting. We got some young kids. We got some superstars, like legit. Stick around. Tune in. We'll talk to you guys later. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Dropping the Gloves with John Scott, a member of the Nation Network of Podcasts. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from to never miss an episode.